Hello, Thunder Wizards. How are we doing? Okay, so for me, it is a late Sunday morning. If you're watching this, it's probably Saturday evening for you. So, we haven't talked a lot about some of the work that I founded this channel on for quite a while. And I'm actually thinking of making some new video teachings because DVDs are becoming less and less marketable. I don't think there's a lot of people out there looking to buy DVDs, and a lot of this stuff I have on DVD. So I think maybe I'll start making some more video teachings about this. Today we're going to be talking about the Thunder Wheel, which you can see in the title. We've used the word medicine wheel, and the reason for that is because that's, for the average person, that's what they know of. If I say the word thunder wheel, nobody is going to know what that means. So we use the word medicine wheel to help people understand what it is that we're talking about. But what we are talking about is this. This is a thunder wheel as well. This is a medicine wheel. This is called the Ayeshyalmer, and it is a symbol of divine protection against negativity. And if you look at it, what you see here, and we could talk about what all this stuff means, but what you see here is branches that are going into 8 directions and centering here, coming together here in the center. And this is another representation of the 9 worlds. In many shamanic cultures, including my ethnic background, the universe is made up of 9 worlds. And these 9 worlds can be used. You can tap into them. It's not just some idea. They are actually there. And the way that energy works is that each specific direction has a very specific magnetic property to it. And that's what we're dealing with here. If in actuality, if you type in the word medicine wheel, you're going to get a bunch of New Age, Native American shamanism, and in reality is that the majority of it is just made up stuff. They don't even know really what they're doing. And you'll go to one website and the South will mean this, and in another website the South will mean something else. And so what ends up happening is that people get this idea that the medicine wheel is just some sort of cute arbitrary thing. And yeah, I work with the medicine wheel, but for South in one tradition is not the same as South in another tradition. So I'm the Thunder Wheel. Here's a thunder wheel that I built some years ago. The thunder wheel is an actual thing. I mean, when you go and you see stone circles, oftentimes they are what I would call thunder wheels. And you can use the thunder wheel as a magnetic compass. And depending on which direction you face or which direction you're working with, you will be able to connect with different powers and entities. And that is because there is a different magnetic signature in every direction. In traditional cultures, anywhere in the world, I don't care, point your finger on a map, at some point in time, the people of that region used to be able to know where east was. You put them in a box, turn them around a bunch of times and put them in a box, and they would eventually be able to feel where east was. Because we have this, we see this with birds. Birds know where north is and where south is, and they know how to, fish know how to get to the exact pool that they were spawned in, even if they've been living out in the ocean their whole lives. So we have this ability to connect to the magnetic field of things. And the Earth has a specific magnetic field, and It's like we've got a bar magnet going through the center of the earth, and so we can feel that. And depending on which direction we face or what direction we're using in ritual, we can tap into different powers and entities. So I'm going to walk through that again for those of you, if you're familiar with Thunder Shamanism as I teach it, then this will be something that you have heard me talk about before. But if not, this may be of interest to you. And in case you're wondering, how do I tap into this? That's what all of these links are here for. So whenever I've got links up here, it's because I am putting them there for your use. These are tools for your use. Today, the one that you're going to be wanting to focus on is the top one, thunderwizard.com. That is where you can learn shamanism. It's syncretic shamanism. It's shamanism that works all over the world. And I'm going to be talking about that today. But if you go there, and even if you subscribe at the lowest level, and when you do, here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go and scroll to the bottom of the page, and it'll say load more. And it means load more videos. And so you keep hitting the load more button. Scroll to the bottom, load more, scroll to the bottom, load more, until you get to the first one. That will get you started, and then you'll be able to learn step by step shamanism that is syncretized from all over the world. And that's what we need to understand. This is a science. There is a science to this. Science means knowledge. It means you've compiled data. I've seen people use the word science wrong. I remember, looking on something online, and some guy said, had this theory about something. And he said, here's my science behind this. I think this and I think that. And of course, me being who I am, what I wanted to do was explain to him that the word science doesn't mean your thoughts or your best guesses. Science means knowledge that has come from, in fact, the word science means knowledge. And it means knowledge that has been gained from looking at data. You go out and you experiment. That's why in science, they do experiments to get data. From that data, they can get proof. That proof creates a body of knowledge, which we call science. So this is a science. And what I'm going to be sharing with you is that the powers of each of the directions are the same in every culture that I have researched that has an unbroken connection into prehistory. That's very important that you understand that. I'm not talking, forgive me, I'm going to probably burst some bubbles and step on some toes, but I'm not talking about Gardnerian Wicca. Gardnerian Wicca has some great things in it, but it is something that has been thrown together very recently, and it's this hodgepodge of Celtic stuff actually mixed together with Germanic. Actually, the majority of it is Germanic, but they paste Celtic names on top of it, because for a long time, people from England had this idea that the original English magic was Druids, and that's not the case. And so there has always been this sort of unconscious hatred of their own Germanic heritage, and because of things like the Arthurian myths and all of that, a lot of English people think that they're a Druid. And, that's fine if you want to practice Druidism, but Gardnerian Wicca has very little to do with anything Celtic. But the point I'm making is that that's made up in recent times. When I use the word cultures or traditions that have an unbroken connection into prehistory, I am talking about exactly that, not something that has been created in the past few centuries. The same is true for Western magic. There's a lot of great things in Western magic, but it is something that has been pasted together within the past few hundred years after Christianity. In fact, it draws very strongly from the Jewish mystical tradition as well as Christian, and it's, it kind of, in my experience, it kind of works against itself. I'm talking about practices that go before written history. So these things I'm going to share with you, you're going to find are the same in the Vedic tradition of East India, the same in the Taoist tradition in China, and when you look at the mythology of Northern Europeans, specifically the Germanic people, the Norse, you're going to find that the directions functioned the same for them. They just had different names for them. But the specific directions all have a very specific energetic signature. And in each one of these directions, you will find certain entities. So we're going to talk about that. I'll briefly go through them. We're going to start in the northeast. So if you're looking at the thunder wheel, in the top right there, the northeast direction is the direction of the celestial deities, what my ancestors called the Aesir, what the Vedics call the Devis. And these are entities that live in the celestial sphere, meaning the sphere of stars. And they're very bright and they're very pure, and they're also very, what's the word I want to use? They're almost childish in the way that they look at things. And that's a bad way to put it because they're not immature. But they see things from a very pure perspective. And so they live in timeless perfection, which is why the Northeast in my tradition is called the fortress of the celestial deities, or Osyard. The word yard, you have a backyard, right? And you have a fence in your backyard. That's where that word comes from. It means the enclosure for your house, the fortress. So you can have a little fence, it's still a yard, or you can have a big fence, a giant fortress, and that's also called a yard. Scotland Yard, guard. It's the same word. Guard and yard come from that same word, in protective enclosure. So they live in this protective enclosure because they do not want their timeless perfection messed with. And that is why they fight with the Vanir. We'll talk about them in a moment. In the east, now let's move down clockwise, because energy moves in a clockwise fashion. It's the reason why we look at clocks clockwise. All that is for a reason. It moves in a clockwise fashion, and in the east, we have the thunder deities. This is where the deities of thunder live, specifically Indra and Thor. And listen, I'm not making that up. You go look in Norse mythology, where is Thor going to be found? He's always in the east, fighting the giants. Indra, the location for Indra is east. If you want to worship Indra, you face east and you chant Om Lam Indraya Nama. You chant for the power of earth. You ground that thunder power with earth. And so you also have the giants, which are the forces of physics, like gravity, time, old age. You also have lesser giants, which we would call thyrses or trolls. And these are beings that are myopic. And this is the east is why the east is the direction of the sun, because the sun is the king, the soul. So on the positive, the east is the direction of your identity. But everything has a negative to it. So the negative side of the east is when you're narcissistic and you're myopic and you can't see anything other than yourself. And then you become a cyclops. A cyclops is a cyclops because it only has one eye, because it can't see anything other than itself. It doesn't have any depth perception, which means that it doesn't have any empathy. It's why the cyclops, you're afraid of the cyclops, because it doesn't see anything but itself. And so this is the challenge of working with the identity. And this is what the thunder deity protects us from. The thunder deity protects us from lack of boundaries. So people who are abusive, rapists, murderers, these are trolls, and you fight against them with the power of thunder, which is the healthy boundaries that come from having your own identity and still being able to have empathy for other beings. And then if we go further down to the southwest, we get to the realm of humans. So the center is the realm of this earth, Middle Earth, Mid-Yard, the middle fortress. And that is specifically where we live. But if we want to go into a direction that has the specific power of man, the power of humans, we go to the southeast. And this is why the Ingrun is there, because the Ingrun represents Kundalini. Kundalini is not life force energy, as you may have been taught. Kundalini is the psycho-spiritual energy within the spinal column of human beings. It is unique to humans. This experience that we have as human beings, we can't have it without the power of Kundalini, which ties us to earth and gives us desire and ambition and psychological issues. This is why people have Kundalini psychosis. It's psychosis. You know, people whose Kundalini is out of whack, they think that they're seeing God, and they have hallucinations. They also think they're seeing devils. They think they are God. This is the psyche. This is the human psyche out of balance. When the human psyche is in balance, then we have the meditative power of Kundalini, which is what yoga is all about. So the East Indians have mastered Kundalini, and that's what yoga is designed to master that snake, which is the Kundalini that uncoils up the spinal column. So that's in the southeast. In the south, we have the warrior deities. This is where you have the planet Mars is located. And this is the realm of fire, and it is the realm of purifying energy. So the true nature of the warrior is not to go kill and to conquer. The true nature of the warrior is to purify negative energy. But it also represents the height of the ego. So we can also look at the thunder wheel going in clockwise direction as the evolution of the human ego. And by the time we get to the middle there, which is in the south, we've gone from the north and we go all the way down to the south, the ego is in full flare. It is completely at full expression, and then there's only one place to go from there. Once you've experienced your full identity, then you must destroy that identity. You must die to that. And so here we move to the southwest. The southwest is the realm of the underworld. So the spirits that dwell there are the spirits of the underworld, which would be human beings who have recently passed away, who have not achieved Valhalla. These are also where you're going to find ghosts and demons and all the things that need to stay in our unconscious mind, all of our unconscious fears. And so if you look at the thunder wheel, you'll see that the southwest is directly opposite the northeast, which is the realm of the celestial deities. And both of these realms, the southwest and the northeast, are called demon doors or ghost doors. And that is because it is my belief that the northeast, Asgard, has a back door, and that back door goes directly to the underworld. So the northeast, when you're out of balance in the northeast, then you become fanatical. So you'll notice that people who are fanatical, like racist heathens, you will find that they don't identify with the Vanir. They identify with the Aesir, and especially Odin. And they do that because they are out of balance. They are focused so heavily on the duality, because the celestial deities see things in a very dual way. It's either good or bad, right or wrong, up or down, bright or dark. And so when people are limited in their understanding, then they can become fanatical. And one of the ways is to become racist. And so what happens is, if the Northeast is not balanced, it becomes a door for the unconscious, where all the unconscious demons come through. So that's why it's called the demon door. That is why in the Vedic tradition, the default direction for the altar is in the Northeast. So you should be doing your rituals and your prayers in the Northeast, because that is where, if you're not careful, you can become fanatical and become prejudiced, and like that. So the Southwest, this is the underworld, and this is where all of our unconscious issues are. This is obviously a ghost door as well. You want to have Asgard as the lid to the boiling pot. And the boiling pot is all the stuff in your unconscious, all of your fears and all of your unresolved issues, things that need to stay there. But when somebody becomes, like a dark wizard or something like that, then what's going to happen is they're going to go and open that portal, because they think mistakenly that they can get power from dealing with dark entities. But dark entities are nothing more than your unconscious garbage, your unconscious fears and issues. Anyway, this is a ghost door. So this is where the soul goes after it reaches the height of the south, which is the fire, complete expression. Then it must then purify itself, and it goes down into the underworld. And after it comes out of the underworld, it ends up in the west, which is the home of the terrestrial deities. These are called the Vanir in the Norse tradition, and they're called the Asuras in the Vedic tradition. And it's mistranslated Asura as demon, and it's not. The Asuras are not demons, they are just entities of the earth. They represent fertility, they represent magic, they represent wisdom that comes through time and experience. This is why the Vanir are called the elder gods. They're not called the elder gods because they're older. They're called the elder gods because they live in time and space, and therefore they have experience. Therefore, if you look at them, they don't look old. And interestingly enough, Odin is seen as this old man with a gray beard. But that gray beard represents wisdom. But the Vanir, you look at them, they're very young and empowered. But they are the gods of experience, the gods of wisdom through experience. And so this is why the Aesir and the Vanir are at war, is because the Aesir want the perfection of timelessness, and the Vanir say, no, you have to live in the imperfection of time in order to gain knowledge and wisdom. This is also the realm of physical death is in the West. So if you ever see a spirit, like if you have a dream, and if you're wondering about somebody, and you see somebody like an ancestor, and they're in the West, and they're waving at you or something, that's a good sign that they may have died, or that they're about to die, because they're about to go off into the west, the setting sun. Then we go, the last of the 8 is in the northwest, which is the realm of the ancient ancestors. So if the southwest is the immediate ancestors, people who have just died and are in the underworld and are working towards coming back, then the northwest is the realm of the ancient ancestors, those who have achieved their awareness. My tradition, we call them the elves. Elf means shining one. And the Alps, the mountains that we know of as the Alps, based on my research, comes from the same word. And I believe this goes all the way back to the Ice Ages, when, if you can imagine, everything was covered in ice. If you were to see the Alps, you'd see these giant, beaming, reflective, huge beacons of ice. And so they were the shining, those shining things they called them the Alps. Even after the Ice Ages, they're covered in snow, the Alps, the shining ones. The sun hits those glaciers and they, This is the realm of the ancient ancestors who were once human, who have achieved complete awareness and no longer need to be incarnated. They stand at the edge of infinity, just like the bodhisattvas. They stand at the edge of infinity and they look back down to earth, and their only job is to help us be like them. achieve their awareness. So if you face the northwest and you ask for wisdom, trust me, just do it. Any point in time, if you're you're full of emotion and you're confused, you're frightened, you're angry, whatever it is, face the northwest and just relax and breathe and just ask for wisdom. And I promise you, yeah, it's very subtle. So you have to really calm yourself down. But once you calm yourself down, you're going to get this intuition of, gosh, what I'm doing really isn't helpful for me and it's not helpful for others. The way that the elves communicate is always connected to how your actions affect you and your evolution, as well as the reverberation and how it affects other people. Because the message of them is what you do affects others. You're all connected. And when you come to realize that there's no separation, between me and you except for, the illusion that we think that there is, then we no longer need to incarnate to learn all these lessons. And then finally in the middle we have Midgard, middle yard. This is where you can see all of the other 8 directions, they converge, right smack dab in the middle there. And so it's called the middle yard, Middle Earth, but middle yard, Midgard. And that is because it is the middle fortress. Because if we were to get the full impact of all of those other worlds, all the energy from those other dimensions hitting us, it would overwhelm us. And this is why shamans sometimes go insane. Many times shamanic initiations are, they go insane. They get sick and they hallucinate and all that. It's because they have an ability to see and experience and feel all of the other realms. And so this is why in times past, when somebody was touched, right? Maybe you've heard that in the United States, and old-timey talk, you'll say that boy's touched, meaning that he's nuts. But it comes from being touched by the gods. The gods touch you. So when somebody's touched, it means that they potentially have access to all of the other 8 realms. Okay? So there's a brief overview, and again, if this is something that you want to study, if you want to learn how to tap into all those realms and understand how you can do shamanic ritual and meditation and other things, go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe even at the basic level, and you'll have access to all of those videos. And in the beginning of this, if you haven't seen it from the beginning, go back and watch it, because I tell you exactly what to do when you get to that page, how to get to the beginning and work your way up from the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and take some questions. I'll see if I have to make my speech about please don't waste my time with just throwing your opinions out, because I'm only interested in questions. We'll see if we have that or not. All right, so Crone Woman Walking question. How can we expand, let me get my glasses on here. How can we expand our life force energy using eclipses combined with the medicine wheel? Well, eclipses are extremely powerful time periods. And so it is always recommended during eclipses to do ritual, especially do mantra ritual. One of the most powerful ways to take advantage of the eclipse is to do the spell of the 9 knots. And all of that can be found if you go to, let me get that up here. Which link is that? This one. If you go to courses.thunderwizard.com, you'll find my books, and there's a book called Thunder Shamanism. There's also DVDs called Thunder Shamanism, but you can also learn that by going to thunderwizard.com. And but to answer your question, the best way to make use of the energy of eclipses is to do energy. So I don't know what you mean by expand your energy. You don't need to worry about expanding your life force energy. Just doing Qigong will expand it. Just by doing ritual, it will expand. But eclipses are the times to do rituals. And be prepared, because it'll bring massive change, especially if you do, if you do a correct ritual. You'll see a lot of change in your life. The moon phases, in my experience, you can, one of the best times to start a ritual or a mantra is to do it on the day before the full moon, because that's when the full moon is really at its most potent, is the day before the full moon. And you can also start the day before a new moon. That is a good time to start, and go from one new moon to the next, or one full moon to the next. And so that's my experience of those. So unified field, it looks like you're new to the channel, so I want to ask you to do a couple of different things. The first one is, if you've got a question, I want you to write the word question, because otherwise I may scroll through because I think you're just somebody typing in whatever's going on. The other thing is, I want you to put some effort into it. I'm seeing here you've got, just disjointed sentences. I want you to put an effort. If you have to write a tiny paragraph, do that. But make sure that your question is something that I can read and make sense of. One of the problems that we have, I'm starting to sound like an old fart now, but people are sitting there on their phones, and people are so used to having everything right now and to communicating and texting right now, and they don't bother to put the time and effort to communicate or to listen. So if you want to ask me a question, put some time and effort into writing a full question and make sure that I can read it and understand it. Because I'm not seeing anything here that helps me to connect with you here. All right, James Colliday. Nathan Keith dropped down $5. Thank you, Nathan. James Colliday, question. How does one start their day with practice? I don't know. What do you mean? How does one start? I mean, that depends on the individual. That depends on what tradition you're working with. I mean, I could give you some examples of different traditions, but that's just a huge question. So he goes on to say, seeking simple inspiration for structure. So it sounds like you need to be tutored, right? You need to, this is, traditionally when you went and learned a tradition, you learned from a teacher, and the teacher would tell you. So this is why this link, thunderwizard.com, that's what it's there for. Because people were asking me, how do I learn shamanism? How do I learn ritual? How do I learn runes? That's where you go. So my first response to you is to go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe. Even if you subscribe at the lowest level, then you will have access to, I don't even know how many hundreds of hours of video teachings where I take you step by step from the beginning. How to work with the 8 directions, what to do. So that's what you're asking me. You're coming, you're saying, I'm brand new, please tell me, where do I start? That's where you go. Okay? So let's see, you're saying here, all right, so you're not brand new. You say wanting to start your day with celestial Qigong, struggling to get out of bad habits. So you got a lot going on here. Why aren't you working with me? Why aren't you an apprentice? You need apprenticeship. Because you have basic questions. And you don't want to use celestial Qigong in the morning. You want to use it at night. The morning is for things like yoga and Tai Chi and things like that. Celestial Qigong is a yin practice. It's for nighttime. So, and you're struggling to get out of bad habits. I don't know what that means. You're struggling to get out of, you don't get up early enough, or you're struggling to stop slamming heroin in your neck. A lot of times people say bad habits and they mean they're drinking all day, or they're smoking weed every day. So it sounds like you need tutoring. So I would recommend going to thunderwizard.com and becoming an apprentice, because your questions are so basic and so huge. Okay? And there's, listen, this is how it was done. You had a teacher and you went to a teacher and you learned. Okay? All right, so let's see what else. I don't see any other questions here. So, since we're talking about celestial Qigong, and when you aren't asking me questions, you are asking me to sell you things. So, I am going to now explain to you what celestial Qigong is. Hi, I'm Michael Denny of SpiritTao.com, and this is Celestial Negung Part 1. Celestial Negung means that this is power that is descending from heaven. And the idea is that we are all microcosms of the entire universe. You are the entire universe, and everything around you is simply the projection. You are looking within yourself. So when you look up into the stars at night, you're actually looking deep within your own body. When you look at the sun, the moon, the trees, the flowers, you're looking within yourself. This is Negung. And so what we're doing is we're simply releasing that infinity from within us. You are tapping into and releasing the power that is within our own body, our own cells, our own organs. So one of the reasons that I'm making this DVD is in the hope that the essence and the spirit of the teaching of the Shang Qing arts can be taught to the world at large, and it is my hope that the core essence of what the Shang Qing tradition is will continue to live and grow and evolve. As we move on into the Aquarian age, everything is changing. I don't need to tell you that. The entire world is changing, and what we are seeing now is that if people hold on to external things, they are very challenged in life. And those who are making the transition into the next phase that we are moving into in the world as we approach 2012, those who look within and find their source of strength from within, those are the people who are getting the most out of life and will make the transition into the next phase of evolution most comfortably. It is my belief that the Shang Qing tradition is one method whereby human beings can evolve into the next level of being in the most comfortable fashion and be able to take advantage of the rapid, energetic, mental, and spiritual changes that are going on in the world today. All right, we're back. So you might hear some road noise because I accidentally let a fly in, and so I'm going to have to keep the door open to let him find his way out again. All right, so we'll check and see if there's any questions here. Dean Nevins, question. I'm trying to bring more yin feminine energy into my life. How does the energy of Iduna differ from that from Freya? Iduna is the moon. Freya is Venus. So they're both yin energies. I'm kind of wondering why you're asking that. Because I think, Dean, we've got you working with a specific Venus energy, right? So I would stick with that. Iduna is feminine for sure, but that's the moon. And the moon is definitely yin and feminine. But it has more to do with life force energy, like Qigong energy or the nourishing energy of the moon, whereas Freya is Venus, having to do with that aspect. But for you specifically, I think, you can correct me next time we talk, but I believe that we determined that you should be working with Venus, right? Okay, so let's see what else we got going on here. I don't see any more questions here. Well, I'm happy to make this a short one. So let's walk through some of the different links here. So thunderwizard.com. If you want to learn shamanism from the ground up, go there and subscribe at the lower level. If you want to learn how to master manifestation, which is what we're focusing on, then you can subscribe at the Manifestation Mastery course level. If you want an astrological reading, what I was just talking about with my apprentice Dean, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. When I give you a reading, in fact, I just had a really great review from a local here that I gave a reading to, and she said that, I didn't know what to expect, but it was so much better than what I've seen in astrology, where they say, and next month you're going to meet so and so, and you're going to get married when you're 25, and it was different than that. And I did that on purpose, because when I was struggling to find my success, I went to a lot of different teachers and astrologers, and I picked their brains and found out I didn't want to okay, what's going to happen next month. I didn't want that. I wanted a specific tool that would make my life better. I wanted to know something very specific. So that's what I give you. I give you things that are going to be the same whether you're 10 or whether you're 100. And all those, those shifts are important, and planetary shifts and all that is very important. But I'd much rather give you something concrete that will help you change your life now. So the mantra that I give you a mantra and a ritual that is based on your chart. In everybody's chart, it'll show you which 3 planets are helping you consciously, helping you find your path, helping you with money and jobs. And based on that, I can have a specific ritual to a specific deity based on where your planet is and what sign it's in, and all that stuff. So this is what he's talking about. He's wanting to know the difference between these 2 different goddesses and their planetary energy. So you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. Qigong.thunderwizard.com if you want to learn the energy practice that I teach, which is to this date the most popular teaching that I give is the Celestial Qigong. So you can go to qigong.thunderwizard.com for that. All right, let's see if there's any more questions. Again, if you don't ask me a question, you're asking me to sell you stuff. James Colliday, question, okay, you already asked me that. Dean Nevins, King Bragi Valhalla bound. Well, there you go. Question, as someone who recently started studying Wotanism, is there a common prayer for mornings? So first off, we don't even know what you mean when you say Wotanism. I mean, I know the god. There's Woden, there's Odin, Wotan, right? Those are different pronunciations of the same deity. And you're wanting to know a common prayer. So, see, here's the thing. I don't know you, and I think you're probably new to my channel. I remember, if you watched this video from the beginning, you heard me talk about traditions that have an unbroken connection into prehistory. Wotanism is a neo-heathen creation, same as Asatru. It's a neo-heathen. It's something that people are trying to reconstruct based on their lack of knowledge. So they're trying to figure it out and put it together. So when you say things like, is there a common prayer for mornings? I just want to reflect back to you, that's the kind of stuff that Catholics talk about. When you have a specific religion, they're going to go, what's the prayer? What's the morning prayer? Right? And some religions work. There's some Vedic religions out there that do that kind of stuff too, but I'm going to bristle at that kind of thing. If you want to wake up in the morning and you want to pray to Woden, I would say just do it. And my experience with Woden is that he is a god of inspiration. He is a god of intuition. So if you really want to work with Odin, you have to listen to your own intuition. And I don't know that I guess I got nothing against a common prayer for Woden if some neo-heathen group wants to create that. But so you're asking me, is there a common prayer for mornings? Not to my knowledge. I could be wrong about that, but we'll see. So King Bragi, it's always good, as I say to other people, it's always good to ask me about things that I teach. So when you start going outside of things that I teach, then you get the kind of answers that I gave you today. Because it shows me that you're following and you're putting time and effort into learning what I teach, as opposed to you were just on the internet and I popped up and you went over and you saw that I work with Norse mythology, so you're going to ask me a question based on something else, right? Anyway, so sorry about that. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but that's the best way I can answer that question. All right, I don't see any more questions coming up. So, let's see what we can do here. I want to talk about this for a moment. If you go up here to neo.thunderwizard.com, by the way, the other link I just put up, courses.thunderwizard.com, has all of my books, DVDs, all of my courses, everything that I offer, all of my services you can find there. I'm going to close the window now. Waves are huge, by the way. Actually getting too big for me to surf. Luckily I went out before it started getting too big. Anyway, so courses.thunderwizard.com has all of my books, DVDs, courses, everything. Go check that out if you're interested in reading my books and finding out what I teach. That's one way to do it. Up here at neo.thunderwizard.com. This is the basis. And again, I'm amazed at the amount of people who watch my channel, who ask me questions, who email me and tell me that I've changed their life. And I say to you guys over and over again, neo.thunderwizard.com are the 4 basic things that you need to get the most out of what I teach and out of your life. You need to know where your soul wants to go. That's the first step. Second step, you need to have the power, the vehicle to take your soul to its highest orlog, its highest destiny. And that is the Qigong. The third one is you need to know the rules of the road. You need to know how to be like Odin and have the ability to command the universe to obey your commands. And you can't do that if you don't know what the rules of the road are. And that's number 3. The 5 rules to master the matrix. And then the fourth one is we can't do this thing alone. We have to work together. And that is, we're creating a community at thunderwizard.com for the Manifestation Mastery course, and we're going to start doing live Q&As there where we go into real depth, more than we do here on this channel. And I'm going to be asking you questions and you'll be asking me questions, and so we're going to move in that direction. So those, again, it amazes me that there aren't more people doing that. I don't know. I wish I had a magic word to say to help you understand how important all that stuff is. In any case, all right. Like I said, if you don't ask questions, you're asking me to sell you stuff. I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to then call it an afternoon, and we'll see what happens later on. For me, this is Sunday. I know for you guys it's Saturday, so technically there's still a weekend left for you. So hopefully I will get on tomorrow as well, and we'll talk some more. So that's it for me, you guys. I will see you guys later.